we need to do?
A lot of times, you know, it's just like your life, your personal life. You have to use discipline. It goes back to discipline. You know, we've talked about this in one of our prior shows. You have to determine whether or not you can, you know, will your life be severely impacted without buying it? Can you survive without buying it? You might need to consider not buying it and just holding off and kind of saving up and wait until you can buy it. And I always tell people when I do workshops, sometimes you have to wait until you can buy things without feeling the purchase. And I'll explain to you what that means and to the listeners. When you can, at a time where you have saved up enough money that when you buy it and that money is deducted from what you have saved up, you're still comfortable, you're still okay. But when you have to buy something, especially when you're shopping, and it comes down to you spending your light bill money, or you're pulling away from your rent money, then that's something you might could live without.
You're absolutely right.
That's your indication. Anytime your rent, your food, your basic necessities, your car note, when those things are affected for you just to go shopping, you might need to consider holding off on your purchase and not get it at this time.
We don't take advantage of that window that you're talking about to process this because there's a word for it that we're so so quick. There's another word, but we're so quick to think about our emotions and our desires as opposed to processing it like what you're saying. And sometimes when you take that window to process it, you'll come out with the solution that you're saying now. You'll begin to weigh situations out based on your circumstance. And then that's where you get your answer. That's when it'll let you know whether you need to have this or not.
Exactly.
But we need that, take advantage of that window.
Most definitely.
To stop and to think in the process.
Exactly.
Comparative. Okay. And another thing that I really wanted to talk about too is that when we get ready, okay, so say for instance that we come to the realization, get out of debt, we got these credit cards, and something about it. What do we want to do? How do we want to pay it out? Do we want to pay the balance, a small amount of credit card? Do we look at our interest rate? What do we look at when we begin? What do we seriously look at when we begin to do something about our debt, credit card debt?
That's a very good question, especially with the holidays just coming off of us. Some people are still feeling the effects of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and as well as New Year's. You know, there are a lot of people who they maxed out their credit cards just to go to New Year's parties and buy New Year outfits. And you know, I always tell people this: anytime you're dealing with your finances, you got to look at the whole picture. You got to look at the whole picture. If it's your credit card, you got to look at the interest rate. You got to look at the monthly minimum payment that many of them are requiring you to pay when you buy something or you charge something. You have to look at, is it more advantageous? Is there a benefit by the credit card provider that you pay it in full as opposed to making monthly minimum payments and keep running a balance? And you also have to look at the fact, how will it impact your household budget? Will you come out better in your personal finances of your household to pay your credit card off at one time, or make the minimum payment, or pay double, and in a short period of time you'll pay it off? So I always tell people, you know, when you're talking about your finances, you come out better off looking at the big picture, looking at everything. You look at the big picture, but examine every detail of that picture. In other words, you know, you have to go over everything with a fine-tooth comb, because you know, a lot of times across the board, that's what hurts a lot of people. They don't look at the entire picture. They look at one particular segment of their finances, and then sometimes, you know, you have to look at the whole picture in its entirety.
Mhm.
And at the same time, and I know a lot of people may disagree with this, but you cannot be disillusioned about your finances. You can't be in denial about it. You got to say, look, especially if it's a couple or it's a family, as well as a single person, this is where I'm at. I cannot keep up with the Joneses or the Smiths. I've got to do a particular type of method of managing my money that will benefit my household. Because a lot of time we see this when we deal with people who are coming to us for credit repair. They have gotten in financial trouble trying to impress, trying to outdo, trying to keep up with the Joneses and the Smiths and the Andersons. And you can't do that. You have to look at your financial picture that best benefits your household and that's going to bring your home or your budget out on top.
So you have to look at both a lot of circumstances before you decide whether you're going to go by paying it off, your small ones off first, and or paying the highest interest rate.
You got to look at and you have to even, like when I say the whole picture, you have to even go and look at a lot of things you buy for groceries. Some people go in the grocery store and blow money. There are a lot of people who get the SNAP program, food stamps. A lot of them, you see a lot of them, you can sometimes tell when they're on food stamps because they're going there, when they get their food stamps, they go in there and fill that whole cart up like they're building a house.
Right.
And a lot of that, half that stuff that's in there is stuff that they could do without, but they fill it up because they're not really paying for it.
Okay.
And what they should do is maybe sit down. Don't go in there and buy stuff you would have never bought if you had to come out your pocket and pay for it. But go in there and buy stuff like budget yourself where your assistance, if it's food stamps you're getting, or if it's entitlements, whatever, you break that thing down that you are able to sustain for that whole month. Because we have cases where people who are even on that type of assistance, they're going there when they get it on the, like say if they get the food stamps today, they're going there and buy 2 cartloads or a whole cart full of food, and halfway through the month, all that food is gone.
Yeah.
And they have maxed out the food stamp card. That's nonsense. And they cannot, I don't care what nobody say, they may feel like they have to have all that food, but they ask the question, were you eating like that before you got the food stamps? Were you going in there filling up a cart and buying a bunch of stuff? You weren't even thinking about whether you need it or not. You just wanted it. You have to budget everything that involves your life and money. You have to budget. You have to do that. So that way, when your next assistance or entitlement come, the wise way to do it is you have something left over to carry you into the next month.
Wow.
And these are things that people may not want to deal with it, but I don't know if any of our listeners follow the news. We're in a situation right now where the federal government is threatening to take away the federal funding for North Carolina for food stamps.
And to think twice too. This time when we go into the store, we're going to be forced to think before we buy. Exactly. So you always have to. I always say this sometimes when I do workshops. People never plan to fail, but they always fail to plan. Oh yeah, exactly. And getting back again to, and not changing the subject, but you're saying right, and paying off those, deciding whether to pay your smallest balance off first, opposed to paying down the one with the highest interest rate. And I know that you said it's according to a person has to decide about their situation. My take on this is that if you know that you cannot, this is just my take, let me see, that if you can't pay off the one with the highest interest rate, to make you, there's a starting point. You say, you look I'll never get out of the situation. I'll never get out of debt. But you can.
Yes.
You can look at the one with the highest interest rate. You can look at the one that's small. But to get started, you can just go ahead on if you can afford to.
Yes.
Get small balances off first. If that's just to get you started, to motivate you that I'm going to get myself out of this situation. So I owe $200 on this particular bill, even though I might owe $800 on another one. Let me start so that it won't look like it's so overwhelming to me that I would start with the smaller. But still you say everybody's situation is not the same.
Yes.
But it's food for thought.
Yes, it is.
To get started, maybe doing the smaller one first.
Yes.
And after you've done the one or two of those, then if you feel like you want to look at one with a higher interest rate, then maybe you want to look at that. But what the creditors looking for is how long, basically, what do you call that? To look at your situation. You're looking at how long you've been dealing in that credit card and how much your credit line is.
Yes.
That's an important factor when the creditor comes. Can you speak to that?
Sure. It sounds like that's a very good point. They're looking at your payment history. Creditors look at how you pay on time as opposed to paying late. They look at how you have handled the account overall. They look at had it ever fell into collections. Have you ever, some cards allow the feature of going over the limit. And sometimes that plays a big part.
That is a good point. You're absolutely right, and I have been called on the carpet about that. When you go over your limit, that's not a good indicator either.
Yeah.
It's still meaning that it doesn't look too well for you. Like you're not in good shape since you got to go over that limit to make a purchase or to do a credit activity or whatever. That's not good when creditors are looking at that.
True.
So we have to be mindful of that. We have to stay within the range. We have to look at our credit line, and we also look at how often and how long that this has been going on.
Yes.
Credit will be looking at it.
Yes. And a lot of times we've had customers who come in for credit repair, and we look at the credit card account. And some credit cards will let you go like 3 times over the limit. Like if there's a $500 credit limit, they may let you go up to $800. So that's 3 times over what you were allowed on the card. Because the credit card companies, they make money. They charge you a $35 to $50 amount each time you go over that limit. So,
that low.
Exactly.
Our limit is what we credit as low as possible.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Keep your credit utilization low.
So, you have to look at all of those things. All those things play a big part in that. You have to, and it goes back again to looking at the whole picture. You have to, stay within and so many times, even like in life, it's so hard for people to be disciplined. It's hard. It's hard. A lot of us all have been guilty of, we see that item in the store, we've seen that car, we've seen that product that we just feel like we got to have it at all costs. And sometimes it's an emotional purchase.
Right.
And I think sometimes emotional purchases are sometimes some of the most financially detrimental purchases you can ever make.
Do you think women are more emotional with their purchasing than men? I just threw that out there.
That's a good question. Interestingly enough, it depends on what it is when it comes to buying.
Okay.
Because in all fairness to the ladies, men can become just as emotional over buying a car than a woman will be over buying a pair of shoes and a pocketbook. So I got to be fair to my sisters. You know, I won't put all the blame on them, because I know for a fact, and I have many friends that are just like me. We can go to a car show. We'll go to the car lot, and we'll see a car, and we'll fall in love with that car, and that car's sitting there $50,000. You know, in reality, there's no car sitting on a set of tires worth the money that a lot of these cars are costing. But we have fell in love with that color, the rims, the features, whereas the ladies may be the same way about a piece of furniture for the house.
That's right. You're right.
They may be that way about a beautiful, elegant dress for a special event or for an anniversary or something. So, in all fairness to the ladies and the men, I think when it comes to men and women, it just depends on what it is. But that's a good question, because a lot of times we do know, you know, I think men and women are different, but in many ways we're just alike. We all have things that appeal to us. And in all my years of being in sales, a lot of times the women, they tend to like things, what becomes emotional for them are things for the home, for the children, for like their special occasions, where guys are, on a whole, in general, we love our vehicles. We may sometimes it's sports. You know, he may add on the sports channel for cable when the family's already paying a high price for cable. But he'll add the sports channel on there because he loves sports.
That's right.
He loves his sports. He's got to have that. Now the question would be asked, does the household need to have 24-hour access to ESPN sports channel? The answer would be no. But because he's emotionally passionate about his sports, you know, or he feels like he has to have that in his man cave, then he's gonna do it. He's gonna order it, and he don't want to hear nothing the wife or the woman got to say about it.
Right.
So, you know, it all depends on each side of the fence has their, as we used to say in the car business, everybody has the different things that appeal to them.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
So it's sort of like it's hard to be a one size fit all for each sector.
Well, that's good information for us to know, and we need to continue to talk about, you know, being realistic about our situation, our financial situation, and we need to talk about this. You and I. But maybe some people may say it's too often, but I tell you what, they may not be in the situation that another person is in. You're right, and I have to disagree if they say that, because you can never talk about personal finances enough. You know, a lot of people would not be losing their homes, their cars, their lights being cut off if somebody sat down and talked with them about it. You know, and sat down and analyzed. Because let me tell you something, and let me share this with the listeners. Money is a element of life. We can't ignore it. You can't sweep it under the rug with religion. You can't act like it doesn't exist. You can't act like you don't need it, because, and as I often say, the scriptures lets us know money answers all things. Now, you may not like the way that sounds, but I didn't write it. But it shows, if you go to Ecclesiastes 10, 18 and 19, it clearly tells your feast is for laughter, wine maketh the soul merry, but money answers all things. And I know a lot of people, they'll read it and they'll go try to find something else that'll disprove it, but you'll come right back to the conclusion that it takes money to eat, it takes money to travel, it takes money to go to church, it takes money to go back and forth to your home, it takes money to even provide for your medication. You name it, money is tied in there some kind of way. That's right, exactly.
And there's no need of people, even when I minister, I don't try to play this game with people that money gonna fall out the sky. It don't work like that. Money has to be either earned, given, donated, and it has to be paid. It's got to be paid. And that is the means by which we pay for goods and services, as well as how we eat and on and on and on. And of course, the church needs money.
Exactly.
God don't FedEx money from heaven. So I often tell people, especially believers, we got to stop acting like, money is this horrible thing. Money can be used for the upbuilding and empowering people's lives, as well as our personal use. But I think somewhere along the line, somebody has misguided us to make us feel like money is this horrible thing. It's not. It only becomes horrible when we lose sight on who's providing it for us. And like we talked about one time, one of the prior shows, a lot of times people are struggling for a number of reasons, but one reason is they're flowing in a spirit of contradiction. You can't hate and despise money, and then at the same time you're out there working 2 jobs. There's something wrong with that picture. You can't look at money as, oh my God, it's money's the root of all evil. But you the one out there working 2 jobs and got a hustle on the side.
Wow.
And I find so many believers that do it, that it's an inner mentality that they won't let go of. God never told us that it's sinful to be wealthy or prosper. And matter of fact, the word lets us know, I wish above all things that you prosper, be in good health, even as your soul prosper. And everywhere I go, especially if I go to church and I have to minister, I try to tie that into that, because it is a balance. It is a balance. It does not make any sense. You are this big time prophet, evangelist, apostle, chief apostle, missionary, and you are broke. You're broke. And some people, not only are they broke spiritually, but they broke both ways, spiritually, financially, and psychologically. But they walking around with a big old glorified title. It doesn't make sense.
And believe it or not, I mean, for some, I think it's what, maybe I'm outspoken about it, but when you have a little money in your pocket, it does make you feel a little bit better. It helps you.
Could you please say that one more time? Let them hear it again.
I feel so much better.
It's like there's another type of peace about it, a peace of mind, that knowing you have money to go eat, to put gas in your car, and then even after all that, there's money left over.
Yeah. I do feel a little bit better.
I do too. I
might be mistaken, but it seems like I can receive spiritual things a little bit better. But when it's kind of hard for my spirit.
Yeah.
To kind of ascertain everything. But if I got a little money in my spirit and I can receive somebody giving me something in terms of the word or the spirit or whatever, I feel a bit. It's easier for me to receive.
Well, you don't realize it, but you ministering today. You're ministering. You're ministering a powerful truth today, because it does. You can sleep better.
Okay.
Knowing that you have gone and paid your bills, you've had money left over, all that stuff for the money's covered. You can you even sleep better. Your disposition is better. Your mind is at rest on that part of your life. And for many people, you see, once your bills is paid, you got a little money left over, you can deal with everything else.
That's right. And we can position ourselves like that. Sure, God can do it all. We know this. But then we got to give him something to work with too. We need to position ourselves so that we can begin to make those informed decisions and to make a plan to get us out of what God didn't get us into this.
That's right.
Get us out of it.
That's right.
We can help do that. By just sitting down, like you said, making a plan, making a goal, deciding what you're going to do, and follow through on it.
That's right.
Whether you're going to play the highest interest, whether you're going to play the lowest balance or whatever, you got to take all that in consideration. Your circumstances, your needs, and then after you find a way or goal, then you still don't overspend. Even after you've gotten to that point, still, you don't need to overspend.
That's right.
You still don't need to overspend. It's good that you can go out and have dinner and you can leave a tip.
That's right.
But you still don't need to overextend yourself just because these things were worked out with you and for you. You still got to have some common sense in it all, because if you don't, you'll be back in the same situation that you were in before. Exactly.
That is so true. That is so true.
And that goes back to you saying your responsibility, being responsible.
And I said this one time when several times when I even minister. There are a lot of people standing up in church crying and screaming and pressure up, facing almost heart attacks because they are in a financial mess. And you imagine how much better their health would be if they knew their finances were in order.
Yeah, that's right. And we read in the news time after time where people have literally committed suicide.
They committed suicide.
They do not know how they're going to take care of this situation or take care of that situation. They feel like they have not been responsible in their financial area, and they've gotten themselves into that mess, got their family into what's left. So I'm just going to take this.
You're so right. It was because I think just last month or 2 months ago, I think right before the end of last year, this pastor got to the church before service started in his study, blew his brains out. And I think some of this is unraveling that he was in a lot of financial debt. So here's the sad part about it. A lot of these people that are committing suicide on financial is because they lose their job, they lose their car, they lose their house. It's not the ranked person out there that's never been to church or doesn't know anything about church. This is happening to people who are believers.
Oh, right. That's right. Yes, that's right.
This is happening to leaders. This is happening to preachers or pastors. And my personal feeling about that, I think it all leads down to because for so long out of tradition, we have been taught to resent or suppress wealth or prospering financially instead of embracing it as a part of our walk with God. It's not all, and I've said it many times and I say it everywhere I go, it's not all material, it's not all spiritual. It's a balance. And that's what needs to be exposed to the walk with Christ or to serve God. It's not all one or the other.
Right.
It's just like the God gave us a complete package. He made us spirit, I think it's body, mind, and soul. Or it's a threefold thing. Financially, spiritual, as well as physical. It's a complete package, in other words. But for so long, and a lot of I'm sure our listeners can attest to this, we grew up in churches where they made it seem like, we just going to do this for the kingdom and building up the kingdom, and nobody's addressing the fact you can build up for the kingdom all you want to, but when you come out of that church and building up for the kingdom and worshiping God, you got to pay that light bill.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I think, any church needs to be able to offer a balance. That I don't care who you are or what church you're, there needs to be financial workshops at churches just as well as there is Bible study.
Right.
Because when they come to cut your lights out or they come and take your car, they don't care nothing about your holy Bible you carry.
Yeah.
They don't care nothing about the church you belong to. They come to we want our car.
That's right. That's right.
And the reason that so many believers are being, I hear it all the time when they come to us for credit repair, is because nobody sits down, and I think that's a part of the church responsibility to the community, just like it is outside organizations. We need to produce financially, not only just spiritually sound people, but financially sound people. The churches, we should be owning our own credit unions, our own banks. and become a financially global leader and stop having to run to the secular segment for the things that we need. But we have to do that because nobody is teaching us how to go out there and start a business, how to go out there and budget a finances. We're always having a revival and a conference for this, that, and the other, and anniversaries and all this stuff, but ain't nobody's coming away from there how to raise more money in their personal home to be able to give more money for all this stuff we got going on.
Right.
It's a cycle that it's got to change, and it's got to improve. And we can keep lying to ourselves all we want to, talking about what's going to come out of heaven. But there are many times, there's a responsibility that we have to do. And I prove my point.
There you go. We got to do something.
We got to do something. God has equipped us. It's just like the saying, none of us that are listening today, you don't need to sit there and wait for God to tell you when you're ready to eat. Or use the bathroom. He equipped us to know that my stomach is cussing at me and speaking in tongues. It's time to eat. And it's the same thing with our finances. A lot of stuff we be putting on for God to do, we got to do something. Because the scripture even tells us, he said that it is God that give you power to get well.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about, because I don't want people to try, people try to twist around what you're saying, trying to contradict what I'm saying. I'm not talking about naming, aiming, and claiming. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about get rich quick. What I'm talking about is getting real with where we need to be in our lives. We need to be not only spiritually balanced, but financially balanced.
So in other words, we need to give ourselves a reality check. We need a reality check.
Because a lot of times when you start talking about money and prospering, people try to confuse it or try to make you come off as, well, Pastor McGirt, he's one of those get rich. No, I'm not. I'm a get real preacher. And my motto is, we serve God in a realm of reality. That's what I teach. I teach people this thing, the reality of serving God, it's a balance. Not only are we able to go and tap dance in the church, but when church is over, we're able to go out and eat us a steak dinner if we want to go. But guess what? We got the money.
That's right. And at this time, before we get ready to close this program out, we do want to encourage people in our listening area, and we have a large listening area, that if they are interested in some of the principles that we've been discussing today, Pastor McGirt, and the message that he can bring to your church to help alleviate some of the stress that may be going on. Pastor McGirt, tell us what you can do. Tell us what your organization can do. Tell us your accessibility. Okay.
We can come into your church and do a workshop, as well as teach people how to get these negative things off their credit, what their rights are. And the way we do that is we educate people on the Fair Credit Reporting Act of 1971 and all the other federal guidelines that gives us that authority and that provision to help you get negative things off your credit, that even though you may owe the bill, it was put on there unlawfully. So a lot of times people say, well, I can do that. You hear people say it all the time.
Creditors do have rights. Creditors do have rights.
You're right. You as a consumer, you have rights. And that's how this program thrives. We educate you. And I'll do this today for the listeners. If they will sign up for credit repair and mention Wake Up Scotland County, we will let them sign up for the credit repair program for only $214. And that's $135 savings off the normal price of $350. But they must mention the show Wake Up Scotland County.
All right. Now, how you come up with that figure, 214?
All right. We did that beginning of this year to celebrate the new year of 2014.
Okay.
And this has helped a lot of people save money because, some people are still in a mess from the holidays.
All right. And tell us how we can get, if we're interested in getting to our church to speak to our organizations or even to have a private counseling session with you. You meet them or they meet you, or all of this is confidential. Give us some information. Give us the access to you.
Most definitely. We can be reached at facebook.com/groups/HG Law. You can also email us at H is in heaven, G is in George, L is in love, A is in apple, W as in worship, at the letter U and then reach.com. So it spells out hglaw@ureach.com, or you can call our administrative office 910-813-8525. And someone, if you get the voicemail, leave a message. We return all calls. Don't just call and hang up, because we won't know who called. But call us if you get voicemail. We're either helping other clients or on the line with someone else. Leave a message in a way we can contact you. Because some people will call and they just call and leave their name and no number. But leave your name and number and how we can help you. Because you know you have not because you ask not. We're all over Facebook. We're on Blog Talk Radio. And you can go to youtube.com/the McGirt. And you can catch the shows that we've done with Wake Up Scotland County. But if you're interested in credit repair and you want that help, we'll do that for our partners today. We'll be on the line. We'll be available all day between the day clean up to 9 p.m. just for those that are from the Wake Up Scotland County area that have listened to the show. If you mention the show, we can sign you up for $214 for that program.
Thank you so much for that. Give me that number. Is that a 919 number?
There's a 910 number, 910-813-8525.
8525.
910-813-8525.
Okay. Again, to the listening audience, Wake Up Scotland County, this is a Friday edition. The pastor is offering us a discount to take part in the services that they offer. Again, that number is 910-813-8525 for just $214. And I'm just sure that this workshop is going to be a blessing. This counseling will be a blessing. We are in a state and economy. Hopefully, it's going to get better. But when it gets better, we want to be able. So call Pastor Daryl McGirt at 910-813-8525. And Pastor, we certainly want to thank you for coming in and talking with us as you normally do every month. And we look forward to talking to you again on next month.
Most definitely. It's always a pleasure, Sister Mary, to be on the show and help those that are struggling. I hope this program, this special we're doing, will help a lot of people, because it's a big savings. $135 savings off the regular price of $350. That's a lot. That's really a lot.
Okay, and we thank you so much, and we look forward to talking to you, and we hope that our audience will take advantage of that discount, and we'll keep putting it out there, sir. That's all. Put it out there.
Amen, and it's a pleasure.